Hello there, my name is John. This video is about why the Fujifilm X-T2 is still a great camera, even in 2022 and beyond, I think. I bought my particular unit here, I think about 3 years ago. This camera came out in 2016, so it's not old, but you know, in terms of technology, that's kind of a ways back at this point. But even though I have since purchased an X-T4 body, I happily still shoot this as a second body when I go out places. I will generally use them both, and I want to talk about why it's still a great camera. And I think if you're in the market for a Fujifilm camera, maybe consider picking up a used X-T2 instead of one of the newer models. So the first thing I want to talk about is that this camera has plenty of megapixels. I think there's always this notion where people see that specification on any kind of camera gear and think more megapixels is better. And a lot of you, I'm sure, are experienced photographers now, and you know that's not necessarily the case. I have a image in my bathroom that I took in Portugal. That's a 12 megapixel image, and I printed it on like a 30-inch poster, and it looks great. I have no complaints whatsoever. Honestly, the X-T2 is, I think, around 24 megapixels, and that's plenty of resolution for anything that I do. The only advantage to having more at this point would be if I can crop in more. And even at 24 megapixels, I can crop in maybe 20 or 30%, not really notice any, you know, degrading quality. And that allows me a lot of flexibility in post, and it also allows me to shoot prime lenses and kind of get a little bit of a zoomability out of it without actually having to carry around a zoom lens. So yeah, resolution wise, I think it's fine. It's up there with even a lot of more modern cameras. So the thing about Fujifilm, and I think the reason that I really gravitate to it is the manual controls and dials on the top of the camera. And pretty much every camera has the command style kind of system, and there's a few other manufacturers that use like the old school actual shutter and ISO dials. And I just very much prefer that style of camera because when I look down, I can get a very clear visual representation of exactly how the camera is set. I shoot in manual a lot, and I prefer kind of the analog nature of that. It's not for everybody, but the X-T2 has those features. And if you are kind of wanting to try out a Fuji system without spending, over $1,000 to get a new camera, then go get a used X-T2 with a low shutter count, and then you get to have kind of the full experience. Honestly, the general qualitative experience of using my X-T2 versus my X-T4 is pretty much the same. They're very similar cameras, and the X-T2 is actually a little bit smaller, which is another thing that's nice about it. It's a good travel camera. It fits pretty well in my bag, and you pair that with a pancake lens, and it's a really great, fantastic package for travel photography. The X-T4 is not a lot bigger, but it's enough bigger that you do notice it when you hold it in your hand. So the other thing to keep in mind is that whenever you buy an older camera, most of the time, at some point, that was the flagship camera. It was the best thing that company could produce at that time. So in 2016, the X-T2 was the cream of the crop, man. It was like the coolest thing you could get. And I remember when they released that camera thinking, wow, I would really like to try one of those out, but I'm not prepared to spend the money on it at this point to do it. And then, a few years go by, more models come out, and then you have the opportunity to try what was once the best thing out there. And honestly, I don't know. I mean, I assume camera manufacturers release models every year, every 18 months or so, because that's how you sell more cameras, I guess. And they do get better over time, but I don't feel the need to upgrade every single year. That's for sure. Generally, I will skip 1 or 2 versions between upgrades because I find the bodies last and they take great images, and my needs are fairly simple. So it also has the old style like flip out screen. A lot of people really dislike the new ones. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, it just flips like directly out behind the camera. I like the flippy screens that come out towards you and that rotate. I'm into that, but a lot of people hate those. So if you're a street photographer, for example, who likes the older style screen, then there you go. An X-T2 will have that feature for you. And honestly, it works great. No issues with that thing. But I do like the versatility of the flip out screen. I don't know why people get so upset about the fact that it isn't directly behind the camera. I don't really care where the screen is as long as it's around the camera somewhere. The battery life is fine. People complain about the old batteries in the Fuji cameras as not really lasting very long. I have never had a problem with it, and I've taken this camera on many trips to different countries, on camping trips. I've never used more than one battery in a day, even shooting video. I turn my camera off. I think a lot of people leave their cameras on and then, walk around with the camera on and take photos. If you just turn the camera off, your battery will last a pretty long time. Video obviously takes more juice, but I mean, usually I'll shoot for 3 or 4 hours, photo and video, and then I will go home and charge up and rest anyway, because I'm tired. My camera's tired and I'm tired. So yeah, that has never bothered me. Maybe it's an issue for you, but by and large, I was perfectly happy with the battery life. It's better in their newer cameras, and the X-T2 battery life is better. But again, I only have one battery for each of those cameras, and that has worked just fine for me. The other thing is, even though it's kind of an older camera, it has great 4K video quality. I mean, really, really good. To the point that I don't, other than some frame rate differences in some of the newer cameras, like I don't really have a need to shoot more than 30 frames per second in 4K. I'm not doing the kind of work that would require 60 or 120 or something like that. So it's fine for my uses. And Fuji's color profiles are so useful for video, because you get a really nice video file that looks really clean and has great color, just like their JPEGs do, and it doesn't require a lot of post-processing. I love Fujifilm cameras for video. They're really fantastic. So that was the main reason that I bought this in the first place, and I still use it for that today. I'm happy to mix and match my X-T4 and X-T2 when shooting both photos and video. You don't have Ibis, so that's the main reason that I upgraded at some point, is I wanted to be able to shoot slower lenses at night while I was traveling in cities and stuff. And I wanted a little bit more assistance on shooting handheld footage. But honestly, Ibis doesn't make a huge difference. It's not a gimbal, So if you don't specifically need that, I would say save your money and get the X-T2. In fact, when I was reviewing all of my images for making this video, I had no idea which images were from my X-T4 or my X-T2. They both look great, and I had to go through all of the specific metadata in those files to see which ones were the X-T2 so I could show you for this video. Yeah, we're at that point now where a new camera comes out and you can pick it up, and that's great, and they always have new features, but the images don't always look that much different from the one you already had. So yeah, I think that's kind of all I have. If you pick up an X-T2 and then you want to upgrade later, then you have a nice backup camera. That's kind of where I've landed. I use it primarily in tandem with my other cameras. So yeah, X-T2, man, great camera, good build quality, just all around a pleasant piece of kit to use. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you later.